By this time, we have enough evidence from videos, from the accounts of survivors to know what exactly happened in Pahalgam. The question, however, remains who carried out that outrage? Now, the police, the security agencies, government of India are all searching. I think probably the greatest ever manhunt has been launched now in a wooded environment, in a jungle, in a thick jungle. That's going on, and let us see what comes out in the course of time. However, many discussion points have arisen, and one of which is the organization that first claimed that they had carried out this outrage, and then 4 days later unclaimed it. That's a bit weird. So see these two statements on your screen, right? The first makes a claim that they carried out these killings. 4 days later, maybe even if it's an afterthought, even if we were to say that now they are claiming that Indian intelligence agencies hacked into their account and issued this statement. Even if that happened, then they took far too long, and that tells you that something interesting has happened there, or something curious has happened there, or maybe not so curious. Something predictable has happened there. That the organization initially made this claim, and then they got pressure from their own handlers or controllers to say that, look, this is pointing the finger at Pakistan, so you better get out of the way. Why? Because TRF, the Resistance Front, this sounds a very innocuous name, but the Resistance Front since 2019 has been the other name for Lashkar-e-Taiba. This is what Indian security agencies believe, but this is also the larger wisdom. The larger wisdom because remember, 2018, Pakistan was put on the grey list of Financial Action Task Force, FATF. Pakistan has had to get off that. So one of the promises they had was that they will now squeeze or maybe finish all their dalliance with terrorist groups. And that's when Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba as organizations sort of went into the shade. They went underground. That's why you now find Pakistan's defense minister again and again on TV channels, international TV channels, saying Lashkar-e-Taiba no longer exists. It ended a long time back. And if something ended a long time back, how can there be an offshoot? So TRF is no offshoot of LET. That's what he's saying. However, see what's happened after the pressure from FATF started. And Pakistan had to come clean because Pakistan's economy was in a very bad way and Pakistan was desperate for an IMF bailout. That's around time both Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, they stopped acting in their own names. However, two new names emerged in Kashmir. And henceforth, after every attack, the responsibility was claimed by one of these two organizations. Some other organizations also arose in the course of time, but all of that was mostly disinformation. The wide belief, also proven by their track record. Also, if we go by who's made the claim or who's taken the responsibility for which attack or which clash or which ambush, then you can see a pattern. So the two primary organizations in Pakistan for terrorism in India, Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, they changed their names. And now Lashkar-e-Taiba became the Resistance Front, TRF, and Jaish-e-Mohammed became People's Anti-Fascist Front, or PAFF. Please note carefully that neither of the two names has any Islamic indication. No Islamic word, no Islamic name, no Islamic suggestion. So both sound like the names of innocuous political organizations. However, if you see the track record and if you see what's happened since then in Jammu and Kashmir, then a trend emerges, and this is what security agencies also tell us, that PAFF, People's Anti-Fascist Front, or Jaish-e-Mohammed, they operate in the area of Kathua, Samba, Udhampur, Doda, Kishtwar, mostly in the Jammu area, extended Jammu area. How do we substantiate that? Because in for mostly involving security forces, the responsibility has been claimed by PAFF. You can see some of their statements, all colorful livery, some of their statements on your screen also. So they make these statements, they make these claims with some bit of pride, but don't mention they had anything to do with Jaish-e-Mohammed. So PAFF, People's Anti-Fascist Front, is the other name, the new name of Jaish-e-Mohammed. Lashkar-e-Taiba was reborn as the Resistance Front. Now you see their area of operation, and this is evidence over 5 years. Their area of operation is Punch, Reasi, and Rajouri, and this is where, for many of the terror attacks that took place, TRF has claimed responsibility with similar kind of statements as they release now, first claiming and then unclaiming. So these are familiar organizations. So anybody who says that TRF is an obscure organization, I have also seen it in a lot of the international media now, that the responsibility was claimed by an obscure organization, TRF. It is not obscure. It's been operating at least for 5 years. That coincides with two things. One, it coincides with Pakistan coming under pressure from FATF. And second, it coincides, or maybe it followed immediately after, the changes, constitutional changes in Jammu and Kashmir from August 5, 2019. That is when these two organizations were created. Since then, each one has built quite a record book of terror attacks in India. Now, we've also talked about their area of operation, and this is something that we mentioned in earlier episodes of Cut the Clutter, and I will try and share a link with you. We had said that infiltration from the Punch Rajouri area had gone up. Punch Rajouri, and then also further down, say from the Samba area, as you get closer to the border of Punjab, because that is the international border area. That is not the line of control, and that is manned by the BSF, and that's where some tunnels were also found. It looks like that area was used by Jaish-e-Mohammed, now known as PAFF, to infiltrate, whereas the more thickly wooded, mountainous and very difficult terrain in the Punch Rajouri area was used by the Lashkar-e-Taiba people, now called TRF. Now, if you see the map of Kashmir, and this is something we have explained in detail in an earlier Cut the Clutter, please see that. We have explained how it is from here that they climb up and they go over the Pir Panjal ranges across the Mughal Road or thereabouts. Nobody travels by a highway. No bad guys travel by a highway, not usually. And then they go over these mountains. These are very well-trained people, and drawing from their actions and training levels, the Indian security forces believe that they also have a mix of Pakistani soldiers serving or former, especially those from the special forces, because these training levels are different. Because to get into these mountains, to these areas, then go up the Pir Panjal range and go to the other side into the valley is a very tough thing, particularly when you are constantly under watch. So it looks like that people involved in Pahalgam as well, at least the foreign terrorists there, because right now the belief is it was 2+2, 2 local and 2 foreign, maybe 3 local and 2 foreign. We don't know. It is still hazy. There are also reports that there were 7 in all. All of this we'll get to know more later, but the foreign terrorists or Pakistani terrorists who would have come through this route. Now, how did this route open up so much? Because this was a very tightly controlled area. That's because after the tension with China, Indian Army needed more forces in eastern Ladakh. So the organization, the army organization, or the army unit is a bit small because it was a division plus sized force called Uniform Force that used to guard this area. This area for internal security, counter infiltration, etc. That uniform force was reconstituted into a division and moved to eastern Ladakh. That thinned out the vigil in this area, and that is what these two groups, the new Jaish-e-Mohammed and new Lashkar-e-Taiba, took advantage of. So what is the Resistance Front, TRF, and People's Anti-Fascist Front, PAFF? These are the proxies for Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed respectively. So it's a bit like proxies having their proxies. So if Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed have been the proxies of the Pakistani army to launch proxy war in India, these two organizations, each one of these is a proxy for those original organizations. So nothing has changed with those organizations or their leadership. All that has changed is the cover. So now there are new names, new acronyms, and the mode of communication that these two organizations use is mostly Telegram channels. Telegram channels are encrypted, very difficult to track. And once again, because this obscure TRF point keeps coming up, and frankly, it irritates me when it comes up, because people who use that expression have not been following news coming out of Jammu and Kashmir, maybe because fortunately, a large massacre did not take place, and one killed, two killed, three killed, particularly if it's the security forces, then people think that's quote unquote normal. Unfortunately, that's an unfortunate way of looking at things. So people don't have a good memory that these organizations have been operating for some time. In fact, since 2023, both have been banned by the Union Home Ministry under UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So see some more track record. If you go on the basis of all the data that's available to us, let's look at just TRF this time, because TRF is the one that claimed responsibility for Pahalgam, then unclaimed, as I said. So TRF, 46 killed, these are civilians, 46 killed in 2019, 37 in 2020, 35 in 2021, 30 in 2022, 14 in 2023, 16 in 2024, and 2025 already. We are still only in April, 26 killed, all in Pahalgam. This data is from J&K police. This data of killings is from J&K police's records. J&K police believes that most of these killings were carried out by TRF. I'm saying most because not all have been claimed. A lot of these have been claimed by them. If I give you the entire list, it'll take too long, because they routinely issue claims after these killings. I will mention some of those specific cases to you as we go along, but it is possible that some were also carried out by the new front of Jaish-e-Mohammed, because both have been operating. According to data available with SATP, up to April 2025, that is April now, there were 32 incidents of killings attributed to TRF, in which 48 civilians and 8 security personnel were killed. TRF, as I mentioned to you earlier, came shortly after the changes with Article 370, and it first made news on 12th of October that year. That's within about 9 weeks. Within about 9 weeks of the big changes on 5th August 2019. On 12th of October, they carried out a blast in Srinagar's Hari Singh Street, in which 8 were injured. How do we know that they carried out the blast? Because with that blast, they announced their arrival. That was like the first opening move by them. So they put out a claim on their Telegram channel saying that they carried out that blast, and it was, and I quote from that statement, this, and I quote, attack was the beginning of indigenous resistance in Kashmir to flush out the occupational Indian regime. Then similar attack took place 2 weeks later. Another grenade was thrown. Fortunately, there was no casualty. But 2nd Feb 2020, just a few months later, 2nd Feb 2020, there was another grenade attack in Lal Chowk, after which 6 members of TRF were arrested. And I know there's a lot of skepticism, so people would say, oh, jisko marzi, you can arrest anybody. This is, after all, Kashmir Valley. From these 6 arrested, see what was recovered. 89, 89 grenades, 8 AK-47s, and 10 pistols. So obviously these people led the police to some place where they had stored these weapons. It was a lot of weapons. Weapons of these quantities and this kind of firepower can light up a whole city. May 2020, this was a major incident. May 2020, 5 men of para special forces were caught in an ambush or in a trap in Dongri Behak area of Keran zone in Kupwara district. This is high up in a very remote area, very remote wooded area. 5 men of para special forces were killed. That is also something that TRF claimed formally on their channel. So TRF is not an obscure organization that was invented after the Pahalgam outrage, just to create some confusion by either side. After that, attacks on Sopore, Baramulla, and Kupwara, different attacks, led to 11 killings, killing of 11 security personnel. December 2020, jeweler Satpal Nishchal was killed in Srinagar, and TRF issued a statement saying he was an RSS agent and part of the Modi government's quote-unquote settler colonial project. Feb 2021, another Hindu businessman in Srinagar was killed. That was Akash Mehra, who ran a popular eatery. He was killed in Feb 2021 because the idea was, TRF's idea was to prevent anybody from, particularly Hindus, from anywhere coming and doing any business in Kashmir Valley. June 2021, now this is a local Kashmiri but Hindu. June 2021, Rakesh Pandita, BJP councillor of South Pulwama, was shot. The same month, TRF claimed that they carried out an attack in Srinagar's Naugam area, killing Police Inspector Parvez Ahmed Dar while he was on his way to prayer. And then they threatened to carry out more such killings. So once again, I'm telling you all this to say that TRF has not just emerged from somewhere just like that. And the fact also is that over time, TRF and LET, because it gets a little mixed up, has lost a lot of its people in combat in Jammu and Kashmir as well. If I take you back to South Asian Terrorism Portal, from which we quote often, 41 of these terrorists have been killed since 2019, 41 of TRF, 23 in 2021, 11 in 2022, 1 in 2023, 6 in 2024. Overall, in these 5 years, 330 terrorists have been killed by security forces in Jammu and Kashmir, of which 81% are of LET origin. LET origin, either directly LET or TRF. Now, let me carry on meanwhile with a little bit more of the TRF track record. I gave you the numbers and I said these are the numbers that J&K police tells us have been killed by them. For many of these, they have made claims, or some they haven't. So it's possible that some were carried out by Jaish-e-Mohammed. However, let me only list the cases, the prominent cases where TRF has made the claim. October 5, 2021, Kashmiri Pandit M.L. Bindru, a well-known pharmacist in Srinagar, he was killed in the Hafchanar area near Iqbal Park. His daughter, who was very angry at that point and obviously very distraught, she spoke in anger on TV channels. I think all of us saw her defiant statement on TV channels. And she said, "Who are these cowards who killed my father? They only throw stones or fire bullets from behind. If they have any courage, they should come and have an argument with me. Let me see what I tell them." Something like that. She was a distraught, angry daughter. So what did TRF do? TRF then issued a statement to justify the killing of M.L. Bindru. As usual, boilerplate statement: we don't like to kill innocents. Thank you. The way his daughter barked about Kashmiris should open the eyes and minds about the dirty and filthy people. We don't target innocents, but it is important that the common person should be aware of the stooges and collaborators who pose as innocent or friendly. This is October 21. Again on October 21, at this point, obviously there was some band from TRF active in that general area. They went inside a school in Srinagar and shot dead the school headmistress, Supinder Kaur, who was a local Sikh, Kashmiri Sikh, and Deepak Chand, a teacher who was a Kashmiri Hindu. They shot them both and again issued a statement claiming responsibility and saying that the reason they killed them was because they asked students to participate in the Independence Day celebrations. Independence Day, as you know, would have taken place just a couple of months earlier. And they said in particular that this was a hit carried out by Shahid Ghazi Squad. So a proxy now found itself another proxy. So Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Resistance Force, and Shahid Ghazi Squad. October 2024, this is something that should be imprinted on our memory because it's so recent. Remember that attack on the tunnel, under construction tunnel in Ganderbal? And that's a tunnel that will take you much faster to Sonamarg and then on to Zojila and then Kargil and then into Ladakh. A very critical tunnel. There was an attack on workers on the tunnel. 6 migrant workers were killed and 1 doctor. So 7 were killed. It is believed that one of the attackers was killed in an encounter later with security forces. Parts of that attack were also caught in CCTV cameras in that area. Then again, I'm just taking you backwards a little bit. In the year of 2024, October 2024, I listed first because it was such a prominent attack and so recent. June 2024, 50 pilgrims riding in a bus. These were pilgrims going to Vaishno Devi, and this was near Reasi, in the Reasi area of Jammu. That bus was attacked. 9 pilgrims were killed. This was a targeted killing of Hindus as well, in this case, pilgrims. That bus rolled down because the driver lost control as the bus came under attack, which in a way was a fortunate thing because the bus rolled down. Terrorists could not kill any more people. And again, double good fortune that even though the bus rolled down the mountain, none of the passengers was killed. There were many injuries, but none of the others was killed. So 9 were killed, and that's a particular reason I had held this for the end and reversed the order of the two big incidents in 2024 claimed by TRF. Now, suppose they had been able to stop this bus and kill more passengers. Suppose they had killed 20, 30, 40, 50. They would have achieved the same impact as Pahalgam has achieved now, which is targeted killing of the Hindu community. In this case, pilgrims. This kind of attack will only be carried out if you are looking for an escalation. So there is a pattern here. So it does look like whoever is doing this has been escalating, looking for a counter escalation on a much larger scale. That's why what used to be limited attacks, either on security forces, small clashes, or targeted killings of one or two others, now grow into plans for much larger massacres. Once again, in the Reasi bus attack, TRF first made a claim and then unclaimed it. So that pattern also gets established. In fact, claim came on a channel called Jhelum Media, which is often used by TRF, where they said this is the beginning of a renewed start. Now again, after the demolition of these houses of suspected terrorists in Kashmir Valley, TRF has issued a statement swearing vengeance on those involved in it. Similarly, they had issued a statement in 2023 also when some such demolitions were carried out. So what am I saying? I'm just telling you that this is not an obscure new organization. This has been around. This is just an organization that the subcontinent and the world has known all this while. Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed are proscribed organizations in most civilized parts of the world. It's only, unfortunately, a country like China which has prevented some of the leaders of these two organizations from being named terrorist organizations by the UN. But other big powers, including the US, formally describe them as terrorist organizations and terrorist leaders. I brought you all these details because I just found too many people, including many credible people and many serious people I would take seriously, now saying that TRF is an obscure organization. Now, if they say that we know Lashkar-e-Taiba but we don't know TRF, or if they say we know Jaish-e-Mohammed but we don't know PAFF, then I thought I should remind them that FATF came up in 2018, and after which these organizations changed their names.